There it is again. One of my all-time favorite EDC knives. It is a culprit of sorts too in my own personal knife history. If I were to give credit to, or better said, assign blame to any single model of knife responsible for my knife addiction, it's probably this one right here. Benchmade 940 Osborn Axis, true Hall of Famer here in the Nutnfancy project. I made the mistake years ago of stepping into a knife store. They had this red one sitting in their glass, and I said, hey, can I check out that blade? Yeah, that was a mistake. I've been hooked ever since. You Benchmade guys know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. It got me. Pulled me in like a tractor beam, the 940 Osborn Axis. Look at this blade. The shape is just perfection for its utility tasks, and it's also good looking. The whole flow of the knife is elegant and seamless. Different blade steels over the years. This is in beautifully polished 154 cm steel. Limited edition, by the way. Eat your heart out. 2002. No longer made. That makes it even more special. Sculpting of the aluminum scales. Good pocket clip. We see it everywhere on a lot of Benchmades. That gorgeous blue titanium backspacer. No gimping. That sucks. Great thumb studs. And this is one of the things I love most about the 940. Check it. Auto-like deployment. Strong. And to top it all off, 2.9 ounces. This 940. Yeah, you can understand my long-term and never-dying passion for this blade. Here comes another version. Dark green, that's good looking. S30V steel in this one. Black. Plain edge, I always like the plain edge on these. It's come out in different variations. I think they have a gold class one that is, off the charts for expense. These were designed by Warren Osborne. And through the years here in the Nutnfancy project, I've reviewed a couple more of his blades. I really like his style. Another good example of that perhaps is the outstanding 950 Rift, reviewed a couple years ago, like I said. Good tactical blade, good EDC blade, and man, is it good looking. Just like the 940. Kind of a consistent theme with these Osborne designs. They're just, I don't know, to me they're very attractive knives. Love it. The 950 was not perfect. The handle scales were very sharp. Had to take the whole knife apart and sand those. Did it, and while I was at it, I skeletonized those extremely hard 420J stainless steel liners, breaking 2 carbide bits in the process. I'll tell you, the amount of work and hassle that was disproportionate to the ½ ounce I saved. I think I said that in the review. If it was a factory job, it would have saved probably a lot more weight. But as it turned out, handle scales rounded, skeletonized, skateboard tape on the top, making up for the lack of jimping here. I love the 950. What if we were to take the 950 and make it bigger? You guys already know where I'm going, right? Yeah, buddy. Well, that's exactly what this knife is. Benchmade 810 Contego. And that's how I'm going to pronounce it, Contego, the Americanized pronunciation. I mean, I speak Spanish. It's actually Contego. Is I think how it should be pronounced. We'll just say Contego. Good enough. It's basically an enlarged 950 Rift with different looks and a different handle shape. Totally. I mean, comparing size-wise the 950 and the 810, you'd be surprised to know perhaps that the blades are very close in size. I'm more or less matching up the pivot points. Interesting. Everybody acts like the 810 is like so huge. Kinda, not really in my estimation, and I'll take us right into an interesting discussion actually on philosophy of use. And by the way, this is not your average 5-minute knife video. I'm sure you can go find one out there covering the details. Heck, if you're in that big of a hurry, just go to the Benchmade website. It's got all the details right there. You'll be done in 45 seconds. This is Knife TV, bro. Welcome. Tactical blade. Yep, that's 810 Contego. That's his primary calling in life. It's actually in the black class LE, a military lineup at Benchmade. What's that tell you? Well, it tells me we have a manufacturer who's willing to own up to the tactical philosophy of use. I say that because some are not. They'll make a knife. I think there was a discussion on the Sabenza review I just posted. Well, that's not a tactical blade. Yes, it is. It could totally flex in that philosophy of use, but it's not billed as that. You know, here in TMP, I just don't travel a road rife with political correctness and protectionist terms. I don't do that. You know, I'm not going to sit in front of here and go, well, yeah, this is a knife that'd be good for the police and the military, cutting cardboard boxes, food preparation, and fruit. If it's a tactical blade, i.e. a self-defense tool, then I'm going to say so. That's being genuine to the review. Yeah. I mean, if we're going to go down that road where we're afraid to call a thing according to its true nature a self-defense tool, then why don't we call every gun a plinking and recreational tool? Glock, perfect plinking, good for shooting tin cans. But what about defending your life with? No. We don't talk about that. We can't talk about that. We got to dance around the designation. What a bunch of garbage. I don't do that. This is a tactical blade, dudes. Flat out. That's its main calling in life. It's in the black class line, like I said, at Benchmade. And as we will see in Ergonomics, it has all the makings of a tactical blade and improvement over its brother. I guess I'll roll it in now. The also Hall of Famer, 710 McHenry Williams. That's a tactical blade. It's an EDC blade, whatever you want blade, but I said it then, I'll say it now, it's a tactical blade. And the 810 is an improvement in several ways over this knife. Again, we'll see that in Ergonomics. How about an EDC blade? No way. No way, not for me. A 4-inch blade for EDCing, I just don't see it. Heck, I'll grab this thing before I'll do that for EDCing. This is a wonderful EDC blade, 2.9 ounces. Kind of a longer blade for EDCing, but very versatile. Some guys may carry an 810 for EDC. I'm sorry, I just gotta laugh. I just can't imagine it. You think about all the utility tasks you do, which is pretty much how we use our knives every day, right? How is a huge blade that functional? No, not really. Heck, throw this one in your system. There you go. Spyderco Honeybee. I just had this on the table. There's your EDC system, dude, right there. That's your EDC blade. There's your tactical blade. Done. Almost done. You got to throw a light in there too. Maybe a cadet. How about Collectible? Well, one of the things of the 940 series that I just love so much are its different variations. It's been so successful that Benchmade has felt confident to issue such over the years. They have to have the knife commercially successful to do that. They'll say, hey, can we sell red ones? Yeah, we can, and they did. And there's been other variations over the years too. That makes it special, and I like that they're limited edition, that they come and go and they're never made again. I hope that's the case, you know. So are we going to see that with the 810 Contego? Maybe. Right now there's, I don't know, 4 variations, basic ones. I guess I'll cover this now. This is my favorite right here. Pure black, plain edge. I hate the combo edge. Don't like the serrations Benchmade does. I've said that a lot. This is my favorite version. And then they have both partially serrated and plain edge version of what they call the clear CeraKoted version. And both of these are CeraKoted is what Benchmade says. And this, of course, is the blackened version. The other one, the satin finished, I guess you could say satin or clear finished one, is actually gray in color. I'm not sure if that's a result of the CeraKoting process over a bead blasted blade. It might be. The result is a gray blade. I think some guys may like it and some may hate it. Again, this is my favorite version right here. So that's the variations that are out now. We may see some more. I think the 810 is going to be a runaway bestseller for Benchmade. There, I said it. I predicted it. Size, weight, and feel. POU is done. Hope you liked it. Well, we'll say, I already said the weight, I think, or did I? Maybe not. 5.8 ounces. That's actually an achievement for the amount of blade you're getting. There are lighter ones out there. I've covered them. It's 9.3 inches in overall length once we open it. Again, a 4-inch blade. So again, when we get to ergonomics, we'll look at how they lightened it up. You can kind of see right there. The feel is excellent. In ergonomics, again, we'll see how what they did right and what they did wrong with the handle. It's not a perfect knife, and that'll take us to steel and blade shape. Blade shape is just like we saw in the Rift. In fact, it's very similar to the Rift. It's just a lengthened version of it, narrower in profile. Reverse tanto Osborne variety. I met Warren Osborne a couple years ago, talked to him about the 940, how much I loved it. I don't remember a lot from meeting him. I do remember this though. Dude loves potato chips. Yeah, he was going to town on a potato chip bag. Hardly had time to speak, it seemed like. Yeah, I know. I was like, what? Hey, who wouldn't? Who doesn't like glazed potato chips, right? He makes some sick blade shapes, though. Reverse tanto. It's very useful, first and foremost, because it has some belly and it slices well. And as I found out with extensive testing on the 950 Rift, go look at that video, it stabs like a mother, talking about the tactical philosophy of use. Yeah, I don't think this knife at all would have any problems going through heavy layers of leather, clothing, and perhaps even body armor, non-knife vest. Not that we're looking for that, we're just talking about the capabilities of the blade. The blade steel itself is something I don't know a heck of a lot about, at least from a user standpoint, and that is a Crucible Metals M4. That is CPM M4. It is a non-stainless powder metallurgy high-speed steel, specifically used in high-speed cutting applications. I'm talking M4. Now you guys know we've talked a lot about CPM metals, S30V, S35, some others. They are a powder technology. When they put the metal together, it creates a very consistent, homogeneous steel that is very controllable to result in the attributes you want. In this case, extended cutting capabilities. That's what the M4 is biased towards. 1.42% carbon, 4% chromium, 5.25% molybdenum, and vanadium is 4%. Blah, blah, blah. What that means is this sucker cuts, and it cuts for a long time. Should hold an edge for a long time. I did not test this blade that way. Some dudes are saying it cuts better than ZDP 189, S30V, better than 154 cm steel, and also D2. I do not, however, have personal experience in that yet. It'll take time for me to get it. I think it's an interesting choice for the 810. The downside is it's not a stainless steel, and that gets back to perhaps why they coat both versions, including the satin finished one. You might want to keep that edge oiled. Otherwise, it's going to rust out and go bye-bye to you. Speaking of which, that is not the factory edge on this 810. That's a Nutnfancy Edge right there, dudes. Reprofiled it. Not reprofiled, I resharpened it on the EPA. I did some cutting with it, nothing major. You can learn a lot when you sharpen a steel. And this thing takes an insane edge. And as for hard as it is, that is, I think, 60 to 62 on the Rockwell scale. I was surprised how easily it sharpened. Hair popping sharp. Where's that paper? I rarely do this. Oh, dudes. God, that's fun. Ripped it a little bit there. So M4, is that the best steel? I think you're going to see different steels as this knife becomes more successful, but I don't mind it. You know, S30V, if you're taking it into wet applications, would be a better choice in my opinion. And for that matter, so would 154, although 154 will rust on you. I have a discoloration mark on that red one I was showing you. Good choice though. It's an interesting steel. As long as you keep it oiled, I think you'll be just fine with it. Love that blade shape. And like we've seen before, it's got a strong tip to it, dudes. That scalloping on the spine, how good looking is that? Yeah, it looks pretty cool. How about speed on the 810? Well, Benchmade guys, what can I tell you that you don't already know? A good axis lock is just downright fast. All kinds of different ways to deploy it too. You know, handle retention while we're here. excellent thanks to the Omega springs, which are part of the axis lock. I'm going to talk about blade centering here in a little bit, but yeah, the speed on these things, sick. Lockup is excellent. The axis lock is one of my faves. I just love it. Fully ambidextrous for that matter. Lefties rejoice. Left and right hand sides. There's your thumb studs. Hey, we've seen those thumb studs before, haven't we? Totally. Just bigger versions of that. No volcano issues, easy to get to, no occlusions from the handle. When we talk about speed, that's part of the formula. Look at that, how low that is cut out so you can really access that easily. Lockup, superb. If I didn't say so, no movement left or right, up and down. Perfect. And now we get to an interesting part. That's after I took this knife apart. Yep, after I took this knife apart. And in doing so, I'll tell you guys right now, if you haven't, you will learn very quickly about the close tolerances of a Benchmade when you take it apart. It's not super easy to put back together. For one, the blade pivot, close tolerances. Be careful when you do that. Make sure you get those phosphor bronze bushings back the way they should be. Did I do that right? I think I did. The reason I say that is because my blade centering is not perfect after I reassembled the knife. I honestly forget if it was before I took it apart. Maybe it wasn't. You can see there's a slight amount of rub going on there against the liner. I think it was perfect, and by taking it apart for whatever reason, yes, I assembled it in the exact order it was. It just ended up that way. We're seeing those ball bearing pivot systems now in a lot of blades, kind of like, what do they call it, the IKBS, or yeah, IKBS CeraKoted does. That helps prevent this. But Nutnfancy, what'd you take the knife apart for? Good question. I'm getting there. Trust me. The handle scales, out as they come out of the box, we're talking about the handle construction now, are jacked up in the 810. That's one of my criticisms on the blade, and it's a valid one. They should totally fix that, talking Benchmade. The shoulders, just like its brother, the 950 Rift, were painful. They were very squared and sharp. From this point all the way around, coming to this point right there. For some reason, they got the radius just perfect on the front of the knife. Why didn't they carry this factory radius all the way around the G10 scales? Don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. So yes, it was obnoxious, and to do it right, in my estimation, I had to completely disassemble the 810 so I could get access to those handle scales, and I took my Porter Rockwell quarter sheet sander, fine sandpaper, I think 150 grit, and I aggressively rounded those G10 scales, and look at it now. Perfection. Melted comes to mind. Those G10 scales are melted, and now the ergonomics with that are excellent. They feel great in hand. We're talking about the tactical philosophy of use. Let's look at the G10. This is high traction G10, just like we see on several cold steel knives, and I love it. I wouldn't change a thing about it. I wouldn't sand it, dick it up in any way. The only thing I did is radius these corners so I don't have that sharp transition digging into my pink flesh. But this I wouldn't do anything about. And by the way, that so-called aggressive G10 wears over time, and so it's going to smooth out with use. It just does. It provides good traction on the side. And speaking of ergonomics, again, a deep finger choil right there. And then we got something along the lines of jimping on the handle. We got some right here on a very shallow thumb ramp, and I will say this run here blows away the one on the 710. Remember how I criticized that? Yeah, I pretty much railed on. That does nothing. This is, I would say, maybe 50% effective. The best jimping we'll ever see will be on the knife blade itself on a raised thumb ramp. They can cut it into the knife steel, and it's just, then they can really get it just right. I'm not going to show you now, but there's other knives that get the jimping just ideal. But on the handle, that is an improvement. Locks in the thumb a lot better than the 710 did. And then you have a stainless steel backspacer with ridges, machined in ridges. That's not really jimping, that's ridges. I really, really wish this piece right here was made of one, titanium, to lighten the knife up by, I don't know, quarter ounce, 1 ounce. Nutnfancy, why? Is it even really worth it? Maybe, maybe not, but I'd really want it for this. Aesthetics. Imagine this blade as it is right now, pure black with a purple titanium backspacer. How sick would that be? It would just set off the looks of the knife so much better. It does give a little bit of traction to this portion of the hand in the forward grip. You got some right here and you got some right there. Okay, now are they obnoxious? Well, again, remember the major calling of this blade, in my estimation, is tactical. I would say absolutely not obnoxious. You want to have that traction. It's going to be a temporary hold. If you want something that's going to be used for extended bushcrafting, number one, go with a fixed blade. Number two, if you got to go with a folder, get something more, I don't know, ergonomic. There's all kinds of choices out there. Handle, though, and the ergonomics of the handle, once sanded, excellent. Excellent. Oh, by the way, check that out. Carbide glass breaker. That's becoming very common on tactical blades. The good and bad of that are as follows. The good is you have one. It's very unobtrusive, doesn't get in the way. You could actually use it as an awl too. Scrape with it, write with it, break glass with it, smack heads with it if you have to. Kind of like this. Ouch, that would suck. The downside is between that, the carbide glass breaker, and the loop over clip, there's not a lot of room for a lanyard hole, and that's why it doesn't have one. I think Benchmade could have got perhaps a little creative with this backspacer and made a provision to attach a lanyard. Maybe in future versions we'll see that. And that's going to be important because it has a really cool clip on it. The Contego does. It is a loop over clip. It's going to carry much deeper than the Rift. Look at the difference. I like the clip. I did stiffen it up a little bit when it was disassembled, and I reattached it. Speaking of which, lefties, you can put it on this side, and thankfully it carries tip up, not tip down. No option for that. Thank you. But I stiffened it up a little bit so it attaches. It's strong, it's blackened, and it's very low profile. Love the deep carry. Now some guys, as I've said over the years, will say, well, I don't like deep carry, especially on a tactical blade because I can't get to it. Well, what's rule one of having your emergency backup self-defense tool, that's a mouthful, on your person? That's right, having it on your person. Carrying it, going out that day with it. I think this loop over clip helps in a couple ways. One is it carries so unobtrusively, you're more apt to clip on your knife. And then if you go into a location where you don't want to be really visible with that knife, it's buried deep in the pocket, and for all they know, you have a money clip. They can't see hardly anything peeking out your pocket. With a 950, they can. If the clip is really obnoxious to you, just get this one, a penis clip, and throw it on. Yeah, that's a penis clip. That's my new name for it. It's a phallic clip. I don't like it anymore. Get rid of it, Benchmade. Seriously. That is a horrible shape. No, I'm not into that shape. Sorry. This is a cool clip, though. Love it. I'm not changing it out whatsoever. I just wished we had a way to attach a lanyard. There you go. Pretty much that's ergonomics on the 810. How about durability? Again, what can I tell you that you don't already know if you're a Benchmade owner? 950 Rift, 710 McHenry W. These knives will last and last, yes, even under hard use. This is going to go again into my best hard use tactical folders playlist, the 810 Contego. I'll tell you right now, it's a Hall of Famer too. That's how right they got this knife. It's not perfect, but it's got a lot going on. Durability, as far as the knife steel goes, I think should be great. Are you going to chip it out? I always laugh when guys are talking about chipping out a folding knife. I'm like, well, what are you doing with your folding knife? I mean, if I'm using a knife that hard, I'm going to get a fixed blade. What do I have on the table? Oh yeah, Kershaw. No, this is a Bear Hunter. Get a fixed blade, something you can really abuse and not have to worry about. But as long as you take care of it, I think it'll be fine. Watch that rust problem on the M4. That could be an issue. Value. Let's see, 810 Contego in the center. It's going to be about the same price as the ones you see on the table as well, the 950 and the 710. It's a USA produced knife too. Hallelujah. Ballparking at around $135 in the upper right is my recommended retailer. He's got good prices, so I would go there, get it. There might be some other great places to get it. That is a lot of value for a Benchmade full-sized tactical folding knife. And honestly, it's a lot cheaper than some of the other tactical blades I've been reviewing this summer. So it's a good deal. How about this one though? We're talking about size at the beginning of the video. Do you remember the Benchmade 741 Onslaught? Oh, excellent. That's going to be, I think, around the same price. It's been a while since I've checked. That's a TMP knife. 154 cm steel, 6.8 ounces. Going to be a full ounce heavier. It's got all the same attributes as far as coolness goes. Maybe a little bit more second kind of cool just because of its looks. Big old handle, heavier. Same lockup, Axis lock. That's excellent. What do I have in my pocket? We're talking kind of large, not survival, tactical knives. How about the super affordable? Didn't know this was coming, did you? Spyderco Resilience. $40, 5.2 ounces, 8CR, 13 MOV. That's model C142. Chinese produced, not USA produced. Now I was talking about jimping on a blade, how effective. There you go. There's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Thumb ramp mechanically stops the thumb and you get traction on it. Yes, I would like to see that on the 810, but no, it ain't there. And then finally, I don't have too many. I have a couple more competitive options. We haven't seen this one on the camera before, or actually in a while. Spyderco Police G10. Speaking of police, there you go. In VG10 steel, I still love it. Very rust resistant, easy to sharpen, fine edged. About $115 or so, maybe a little bit less. 5 ounces. So it's going to be lighter than the 810 Contego. I think it's an interesting size comparison. They're about the same size overall. I love that long handle on the Contego, by the way. Great forward and reverse grips. And then finally, I showed this in another video. CeraKoted Foresight. Much heavier than this knife, but size-wise, it's an interesting comparison. It's got that flowing organic Kent onion blade, difficult to sharpen, more difficult, I think, and it's heavier. Really a different blade than this. To me, this is not a real serious tactical blade. It just isn't. It's too slick. Got no gimping on it. So there you go. Another Warren Osborne Hall of Famer in the Nutnfancy project, a semi-feature length tabletop review. I love this knife. You might want to consider this though. Those sharp handle scales out of box are a problem. How do you fix that? Can you do it while they're still on the knife? Yeah, probably. Did I have to take it apart? Maybe not. My big fear is though when you're running a powered sander is that you rotate it and next thing you know you sand off this spacer on your brand new knife or you polish it right here. I think that's Bush League. I would just recommend taking it apart and being very slow and methodical when you do so. Hopefully that wouldn't void the warranty, which is outstanding with Benchmade lifetime. I mean, if they said, hey, you took this knife apart and sanded the scales. Come on. I hope they're not that particular. Once you do that, maybe tighten up that loop over clip. This is a solid blade, just as it's coming to us in 2012. The Benchmade 810 Contego. It goes right in there with the rest of the Hall of Famers. Love it. Nutnfancy.